That came out really good, dude. That was awesome.
Howdy, everybody.
Good stuff. What's going on, everybody? I know you're looking at the screen going, wait a minute. These guys look familiar. Holy crap, I haven't seen them in a while. They've been off doing other stuff. What is going on? So, yeah, we're back. We're sorry about that. We had to take a couple weeks off. We had some scheduling stuff going on.
And I have a case of the crud.
And he's Count Crudula tonight. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're glad to be back. Taking 2 weeks off was good and bad in its own right. It was nice. I got to take a little vacation, and I don't ever take vacations, so that was cool. Unfortunately, Alamo here had to do some work-related stuff the week previous, and that was crap. Yep. So we're back. If you haven't done so already, please feel free to go on any of our social media platforms, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so you can catch all of the dang. Yeah, I know. I remember this time. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out. Feel free to go in and kind of go over our past episodes and whatnot. We'd appreciate it. All that good stuff.
Hell yeah.
So we've been off, so we're going to just kick it right into high gear and go at this stuff. So 3 weeks ago, we did our last episode. It was episode 092. We talked about the topic of attitude. You can go back and watch that or listen to it on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere. Is it on Spotify yet? Has it been downloaded yet? Or
I haven't been able to get many. I don't think I've been able to get any of the episodes on to Spotify, but I'll be working on that
from this season.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be working on that this weekend.
So yeah, you can always go on YouTube. Once we go live, it pretty much pops up there on our page. You can just search Battle Bros Podcast on YouTube. You can always find it. Play it in the car on a long drive. It helps. Trust me, I've done it. So this week we're gonna do another historical review of some cool stuff that we're going to talk about here in a minute. This past Monday, obviously, was Veterans Day, so that's kind of the motivation and the what is the idea behind what we're going to talk about for our historical review here. So before we get into that, I actually wanted to give a little bit of of a history lesson on Veterans Day and how that came about. So, Veterans Day was originally known as Armistice Day. It is observed annually on November 11th. It's one of those holidays that has a fixed date of the year. It's not like Thanksgiving where it's the last Thursday of the month of November, that kind of stuff. It's always on the 11th. It coincides with the holidays in several countries, including Armistice Day and Remembrance Day. Major hostilities of World War I were formally ended at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918 when the armistice with Germany went into effect. At the urge of U.S. veteran organizations, it was renamed Veterans Day in 1954 to what it is now. So this is technically the 70th iteration of Veterans Day as we know it today. Now, one of the things that a lot of people that might not have anybody in the military in their family or have a background, there's 3 different holidays, obviously. You have Armed Forces Day, you have Memorial Day, and then you have Veterans Day. So Armed Forces Day is for anybody that's currently serving in the military or the armed forces. Memorial Day is for those, it celebrates and commemorates those who did not come out of the uniform. They gave their dying breath in service of the country, all that kind of stuff. Veterans Day are for folks that made it out of uniform, and it's a way to look back and just kind of be thankful. And it's also a way for you to go and get, if you're a veteran, you can go and probably, stock up the fridge, going to like 6 or 7 different restaurants by giving all the free meals and stuff that places offer. Because let's face it, we all know somebody that's done it. I'm not exactly saying I do it. I don't. I might go to one restaurant and enjoy the benefits of that. What
It's usually
restaurant am I
Chili's
choosing?
or Applebee's for me.
Bro, go to freaking go to Mission Barbecue.
I thought about that too, but they're so
Like,
far from
dude,
us.
where is it? It's in
It's
Orlando, isn't it?
wait, do they have a Daytona one? I'm gonna have to look
Looking
that
it
up now.
up right now. Oh my gosh.
So, cool tidbit about the whole vet. Like, so for those of our civilian listeners, like, if you ever have a veteran that kind of gets a little bit disgruntled with you when you say, "Oh, Happy Memorial Day," it's like, "Happy to who?" You know, if you get that kind of a response, it's not because we're trying to be an ass. It's because most likely we're thinking about the people we lost in combat. So I would ask my civilian listeners, try to be a little bit patient with us. Um,
It
it's
can
it's
be. It
not
can
you,
be.
it's us.
Yeah. It's definitely us, and it can be. And for a lot of folks, it can be something that's a little bit triggering. It's like, you know, it's in that whole like thank you for your service, and even that's kind of like a little. I've heard people just be like, yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard
It,
some people
it,
come up with some really good responses for it, but I'm just like, I just kind of go,
among the community, we say welcome home. Um,
yeah.
like
Especially the Vietnam vets, man.
especially the
That's
Vietnam vets.
huge,
Yep.
huge thing. So hey, I'm looking at that real quick. There's one in Oviedo.
Ooh,
There is
I
one.
think that might actually be closer to me.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing a lot of stuff is over in other areas. There's nothing. There's like Fort Lauderdale, but that's kind of south of you. There's two in Jacksonville, which is way north of you. Orlando and Oviedo is pretty much it. So
Orlando and O'Vittles.
and Ovittles. So yeah, but yeah, dude, they've got usually a pretty good spread stuff in there.
Mhm.
It'll be a little busy, but yeah, I just like Mission Barbecue. It's very patriotic. You go in there, they got all that cool like patches and like regalia and stuff up on the
Hell
wall.
yes.
Unit patches or like rank chevrons or that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. They play the national anthem every day at 12, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, which is like it's kind of cool. So,
Hell
but anyway,
yes.
so yeah, so Veterans Day is it's kind of important. It's a federal holiday, all that good stuff. I didn't know this. Legally, 2 minutes of silence is recommended to be observed at 2:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I didn't know that.
The more you know.
The more you know. So, yes, and also you don't put an apostrophe in the S. It's veterans, as in plural.
That's right.
There's no apostrophe, so don't. No, don't do that. So, yeah. So I would have liked to have celebrated. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but I was too busy driving back. I went and visited a good friend of ours. His daughter turned 3. We got to go up and spend. My daughter and I got to go spend some time up in the mountains of North Georgia. It was beautiful up there. The weather was in the 50s. The
Yep.
leaves are changing color. Oh my gosh, it's like everything you expect from fall weather in God's country. It was just so pretty up there. Everybody
This
was
is
super
God's
nice.
country.
That's a real thing, dude. Like no joke. You just
Right
wait.
outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing but the deed to. I'm kidding. I'm not going to keep going with that.
Oh, you should have. You were killing it, dude. Even with that, even being crown crudgely, you were killing it.
I know. Got a deed to the land. This is God's country.
As soon as we get off here, I'm gonna listen to that song probably
It's a
like 2
great
or 3
song.
times. It's a great, dude. Blake Shelton kills it, man. I love that guy. He just makes some good song. That song that he did about the coon the hound dog, Old Red,
Yeah,
about the guy getting out of prison. That's a funny damn song, dude. I love that song.
yep.
It's hilarious. But anyway, so because of the fact that we had Veterans Day on Monday, we kind of planned it out so that we had a really cool historical topic to talk about. Alamo is going to actually lead from the front on this one because this is something that he's been doing quite a bit of research on. I don't want to steal any of his thunder. This guy did all the work. Put in the legwork and the hours of reading and researching and stuff. So, but what we're going to talk about is a regiment of the Army. It's called the Borinqueneers. It is the 65th Infantry Regiment. And from what I have read about them, they are originally were they always National Guard? Or was, I mean, I know they were active duty when they were deployed and stuff, but did they start off as National Guard?
Funny thing, when they were first formed, it was originally like a small little battalion that was started back in March of 1899. It was kind of forged as like a defense force because at that time I think we had just acquired Puerto Rico from Spain, if I'm remembering correctly. Actually, let me reference my stuff. Yes, it was following the Spanish-American War, and we had just acquired Puerto Rico. And the regiment, it says here that on the 2nd of March, 1899, the Puerto Rico Regiment of Volunteer Infantry. 3 weeks later, on the 24th of March, 1st Battalion was organized at San Juan. A 2nd Battalion, a mounted outfit, was organized on the 12th of February, 1900 at Henry Barracks. On the 30th of June, 1908, the regiment was allotted to the regular army and designated as the Puerto Rico Regiment of Infantry. Initially, all officers and first sergeants were white, called Continentals by the Puerto Ricans, but in 1905, several Puerto Ricans were appointed as Second Louis.
That's something I found interesting. They called all of us gringos Continentals.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at that point in time, we had just officially become kind of like a commonwealth. So it was seen as like, oh, well, you got, we got here our país, our land,
and this was back in the 1917, I believe, 1920.
It was right before World War I, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Right before World War I.
So to the British, we're ungrateful colonials, and to you guys, we're colonials. That's fantastic.
Yep.
The mainland, what do they call them? The colonials? Not the colonials, but
Continentals.
Continentals. Thank you.
Yep.
So the reason we're bringing this up, folks, is that this was a really cool outfit. They've actually got quite a bit of wartime notoriety, especially when it comes to World War II, and then also very much so, if not more so, in the Korean War.
Yep.
But they've also got some time downrange during Global War on Terror, during I believe it was 03 and
World War II.
And World War II, Korea, and then GWAT in Iraq, and I believe it was 03 and 07 when they were part of the 3rd Infantry Division out of Fort Stewart, whatever the hell it's called now. I don't know.
Yeah, Lord knows they changed a lot of names.
They did. So, but anyway, so Alamo is going to be running point on this one. So yeah, rock and roll there, big guy. Actually, that's still called Fort Stewart. Okay, they didn't change the name of that one.
They didn't change that one. Yeah, it was probably because the Wokies agreed that Fort Stewart was named after someone that was not. Well, let me not go there. Anyway. So later on, right, the unit ends up getting kind of rolled into divisional duty. They start working, kind of security for the Panama Canal. Obviously, we know back in those days, going up all the way up until I think it was 1980? When did we officially back out of the Panama Canal? I'm trying to remember.
Oh God, dude, I read so much of this just reviewing over it today. Like all the dates are kind of just like,
yeah. I know it's if I remember correctly, it's somewhere between the 1980s and 1990s is when we officially pulled out of the Panama Canal, but that was officially a U.S. territory for a long time. And in World War I, the not yet named then Borinqueneers essentially played security. Essentially taking on ships and things of that nature. Fun little fact: the the unit actually fired upon some German boats during that time frame that actually tried to make their way through the canal.
Can I interrupt you real quick there, bro?
Yeah, go ahead.
Panama Canal Zone was abolished in 79 as a term of the Torrijos-Carter treaties 2 years earlier. The canal itself was under joint U.S. Panamanian control until it was fully turned over to Panama in 1999.
Yep.
But
So we
from
had joint
1903 to
control.
19 yes, from 1903 to 1979, the territory was controlled by the United States, which had purchased the land from its private and public owners, built the canal, and financed its construction. So,
Yep. One of the
yeah,
greatest industrial frickin' feats of mankind's history.
yeah.
Turning a giant frickin' swath of swamp and frickin' rainforest into something that could, transport stuff between the Gulf and the Pacific. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Is it the Pacific or is it the Caribbean?
Was it the Caribbean? No, no, because actually, crap. Where does the Panama Canal is?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right. You're right. You're right. My bad, dude. I'm stupid
it's
today.
all good, dude. I got the Count Crudula. I'm
You
trying
got
to
the
catch up
crud,
too.
and I'm still trying to get back on track with coming back from vacation. So it's like, so,
so, so stepping forward a little bit, back in like about the 14th of September of 1920, the regiment ended up being redesignated to the 65th Infantry, and you actually had a couple of regiments split up. You had the 65th, you had the 250 or 295th, and the 296th. Um, the one seeing the most action being the 65th and the 65th. But you also had the 33rd, 42nd, and the 33rd and 42nd infantry regiments, which essentially played ball mostly in Panama. Um, during during the beginning of World War II, the unit was kind of working the Panama area, um, and they did a lot of training. They did a lot of security there while they were there. And then the regiment's 3rd Battalion was sent to Corsica and attached to the 12th Air Force later on in the year 1944 in April the 5th, more specifically. And they were attached to the 7th and 6th Army Group headquarters, where they didn't really get a chance to see a lot of combat, but they definitely pulled a lot of security for them and kind of played port jockeys. They also participated in the Port Rex in 1950, but we're jumping forward a little bit on that one. Some notable combat um, operations for them in World War II. This was like later on after they had moved away from the Panama Canal and then went to Africa. They actually went to Africa. Africa was more of like a transitioning site for them before they actually went into Europe. But after they after they left Africa and finally entered Europe, they went through mainly the areas of Italy, where they actually fought in the Moro River campaign. It says the 65th Infantry Regiment was part of the Allied forces that fought in the Moro River campaign, a series of battles fought in Italy's Apulia region from October 1943 to February 1944. The regiment played a significant role in this campaign, particularly during the Battle of San Leonardo, where they worked in tandem with other Allied units to secure key terrain and disrupt German supplies. Now, there was a point while they were fighting in Italy, I believe, where they ended up actually being forced into a retreat at one point. Um, I'm actually trying to look through my notes to find where I read that because I actually read quite a bit of this stuff. Um, let's see. But they played a very key and pivotal role in Italy in kind of moving forward and pushing things through. Kind of that they were actually playing a good part in being the spearhead, which forced everybody into Europe. Excuse me. Later on, during the Battle of Anzio, in January of 1944, the 65th Infantry was deployed to Anzio, where they supported the Allied forces during the battle, right? Although not a primary unit in the battle, they contributed to overall effort, engaging German forces and helping to secure key positions. Now, Mac, if I remember correctly, you said that at some point they actually relieved, I believe it was the all Japanese American unit in
Yes.
where was that?
Oh, I had that pulled up. Hold on a minute. Dang it. Give me just a sec, dude. I'm sorry. I closed out that tab.
Ah, you good, man? Later on that year, they also moved in. They also participated in Operation Diadem, where they took part in where they were a major part of the Allied offensive aimed at breaking through the German lines in Italy.
Here we go.
Um,
Yes. It was December of 44. The 65th Infantry, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Cordero Davia, relieved the 2nd Battalion of the 442nd Infantry Regiment, which was made up of Japanese Americans under the command of Colonel Virgil R. Miller, who himself was a native of San Germain, Puerto Rico, and a former member himself of the 65th Infantry
San
Regiment.
Germán.
Where is that on the island? I don't think I ever remember seeing that when I went down.
I don't remember. I can't remember if it's. I feel like it's west side of the island, but I'm not 100%.
Okay.
Um,
It's on the yes. It is in the western side of the island, kind of down on the southwest corner.
mm,
Okay. And it's San
yes,
Germán. Is how you say that?
San Germán.
San Germán.
So later on that year, they ended up being part of a Gothic line, which was a pivotal role in breaching the German-occupied Gothic line, a series of defensive positions stretching across northern Italy. It says, although the regiment's specific actions during this period are not well documented, they likely played a supporting role in the overall effort to break through the German defenses. Now, I'm trying to remember the commander's name. I actually had those documents saved on my computer at one point. But unfortunately, my computer, I don't know if they got deleted or whatever the hell happened, but
What article were you pulling that from?
it was actually
Is it the
field
notes from
notes
the?
that was actually compiled into a small kind of like a, I guess you could say um, operational book
So it's
that
not one of the. It's not one of the hyperlinks you have up.
right. It
Okay.
was their commander throughout that time. He actually said that they were some of the finest damn soldiers he'd ever served with. And mind you, again, this is like a predominantly Hispanic unit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, even the commanders then had to recognize how well they fought and how well trained they were.
So we're still talking about World War II. So it's pretty much
Correct.
it's in Korea that they really kind of made a name for themselves.
That's when they really made a name for themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Continuing on through France and Germany, they actually participated in the Rhineland campaign. The regiment's units were actually tasked with securing key terrain and objectives, including the Siegfried Line. If anybody remembers anything from World War history, the Siegfried Line was actually a very important line back. I think what the hell was it? I know it was of key importance during World War One as well, but I can't remember the exacts of it. But the unit actually helped get through a series of fortifications on the German-French border. In Operation Grenade, they took part in a major offensive aimed at capturing the city of Kaiserslautern and breaking through the Siegfried Line.
The
The
Siegfried
regiments,
line was in Germany. It's known as the West Wall, and
yep,
it's the one that had all those little obstacles in it to prevent like
yep,
tanks and stuff. It's a series of
yep,
obstacles including concrete pillboxes, trenches, tunnels, and tank traps that stretched over 390 miles from the Netherlands to Switzerland.
yep.
Also included 3-foot high concrete obstacle called drag. That's what they were, dragon's teeth. That were often wired, surrounded by mines, and covered by machine guns.
Yep. The regiment's units fought bravely, overcoming fierce German resistance and securing key objectives. Then they also provided uh, offensive capabilities during Saar River, the Saar River sector, in the Saar River sector area, where they defended against German counterattacks and continued to push forward, ultimately capturing key towns and cities along the Saar River. Now, fun little fact, they actually earned recognition later down the line in 1994 as being part of the history liberating one of the history liberating units that helped liberate a concentration camp. It was over. Now this one was in Flossenburg, and which is like the Bavaria area. The 65th overran a subcamp of the Flossenburg concentration camp on April 20th through the 21st of 1945. Which, I mean, if anybody knows anything about how horrific these concentration camps were, you know, like these guys probably saw some pretty terrible stuff when they actually went and liberated those camps. They were key in helping liberate some of these areas. Now, during the European theater, it is said that they actually lost about 260 men, but suffered a total of 1,230 casualties, which means they were actually in a pretty good amount of the fight. And they saw some pretty decent combat. Now, there are some notable awards for that specific conflict. The regiment's actions through the Rhineland campaign and numerous other areas, right, earned looked like Frederick C. Murphy a Medal of Honor. Also, there were 2 Silver Stars awarded, 22 Bronze Stars, 90 Purple Hearts awarded throughout the entire conflict of World War II for the 65th. I wasn't able to really find exactly who those were awarded to, but you have some notable commanders as well. One of them being Colonel Antulio Segarra, who was a native Puerto Rican, and he commanded the 65th during its deployment through North Africa into Europe. Then there was Colonel Juan Cesar Cordero Davila, who you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Cordero Davila led the regiment during its combat operations in the Rhineland campaign. Now we're going to start getting into the good stuff. We're going to be talking about Korea. Now these guys, you want to talk about earning a rep. Both, oh, take over for a second.
I don't know what you want me to take over with. I'm sorry. I was looking at some other notes on here, dude, just to make sure I'm caught up. You good there, pal?
Yeah, I had to get the crud out.
Gotcha. Take your time, dude. I don't want to mess up your thing. You're going good with this, man. Rock and roll, baby.
So during Korea is when the unit really started gaining some heavy recognition. What you'll notice is that in a lot of photos, for example, that you see of the boys from the 65th, is that a lot of them were rocking mustaches, right? Now, for these guys in those units, rocking a stash was really like a sign of manhood, like a sign of honor.
It's like it's
So
a.
if you
Don't get
notice, like,
me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like a sign of like being a little bit machismo, right?
absolutely, absolutely,
Like,
very. And then you don't find that kind of machismo more than you do
and
with
you know what's
Puerto
funny too,
Rico.
man,
Let me
is
be honest.
there's actually a great reference to this, um, on the show MASH. So
Mm,
there's an episode where they kind of follow quite a few of the patients in the post-op ward, and there's this young dude, younger guy. He's a Puerto Rican and all that stuff, and he had an injury, like he had some kind of laceration to the side of his face, so they had to shave his mustache. And he
yeah.
comes up to Klinger. He's like, "Hey man, you got to marry? Like, you settle for a compact?" And he shows him. He's like, "Oh, why did they do that, man? They shaved my mustache." He goes, "I've had a mustache since I was 13 years old," and like it's kind of a big deal. So
Yeah.
Klinger ends up taking some, like, he's like, a non-regulation military issue, one each mustache, and he like used like his own hair. He's like, "It's Lebanese hair. It'll probably keep growing," and it's it's this great handlebar mustache. He goes, "Hey, Cavalla, man, that looks good. You okay, man?" And he's just sitting there, and it was like this great, and like I understand now the reference of that because of
Yeah.
like reading about all this stuff. So it just made me think,
Yep.
and I was like, "Oh no shit." Like, sorry, continue, man.
No, you're good.
I had to share that.
No, it's really it's cool. Um, so they go. The regiment ends up going to Korea. Um, let's see. Do. Lost my place.
They arrived. It says here that
Uh,
they had 3 infantry battalions, an artillery battalion, and a tank company.
yes,
Departed Puerto Rico and arrived in Pusan on 23 September of
23.
1950.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
was during the sea voyage that the men nicknamed the 65th Infantry as the
Oh,
Borinqueneers, which is
as
a
the Borinqueneers.
amalgamation of the term of the two original tribes that inhabited the island of Puerto Rico, Borinquen, and many of
But
the men were direct descendants of that. So it's kind of a combination of Borinquen and Buccaneers. So they took those together. There
yep.
you go. And it was also during
Exactly.
this time they got attached to the Third Infantry Division. Is that correct?
Cor- yes, actually, yes. That is around that time frame that they ended up getting connected to them. Actually, I have a cousin. Actually, shoot, I forgot to pull that up. I have a cousin of mine, a distant cousin that actually served as a machine gunner in the unit.
Nice.
Um, let's see.
So while he's looking that up, I'm going to read what I've got here pulled up.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
so they are now attached to the Third ID. Were among the first infantrymen to meet the enemy on the battlefields of Korea. After November of 1950, they fought daily against units of the Chinese PLA, the People's Liberation Army, after the Chinese entered the war on the North Korean side. The 296th Regiment took its place at Puerto Rico and in Korea. The regiment covered the retreat of the 1st Marine Division during the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir. One of the hardships that they suffered was the lack of warm clothing during the cold, harsh winters. The winters in Korea, I hear, are just pretty freaking epically shitty,
They're brutal.
especially with guys being in a tropical climate such as Puerto Rico, where they don't have winter at all. That would be a problem. So, but yeah, the enemy made many attempts to encircle the regiment, but each time they failed because of the casualties inflicted by the 65th. Because they held their positions, that enabled U.S. Marines to withdraw from the Chosin Reservoir in December of 50. When the Marines were surrounded by the Chinese Communist troops closer to the Manchurian border, they were ordered to retreat and work their way back to Hungnam. Men of the 65th rushed to their defense and were ordered to stay behind and fight the enemy. As a result, the Marines were able to withdraw to their ships, with the 65th holding the rear guard. 65th, attached to the 1st Marine Division, was awarded the Navy Unit Commendation for their defense and were among the last units to embark from Hungnam. Among the battles and operations in which the 65th participated was Operation Killer Joy in January of 51, becoming the first regiment to cross the Han River in South Korea during the occupation. Let's see. In 51, April
Dude.
of 51, the regiment participated in the Uijambu corridor drives, and in June 51, the 65th was the third regiment to cross the Hantan River. The 65th took and held Chorwan, and they were also instrumental in breaking the Iron Triangle of Hill 717 in July of 51. In November of 51, the regiment fought off an attack by two regimental-sized enemy units. Colonel Juan Cesar Cordero Davila of the 296th Regiment requested a transfer to active service in Korea. In December of 51, Chief of Staff J. Lawton Collins visited Puerto Rico and granted the request, reassigning him to the 65th, replacing him with Lieutenant Colonel Sepulveda. Colonel Cordero was formally named commander of the 65th Infantry on 8 February of 52, thus becoming one of the highest-ranking ethnic officers in the Army. Brigadier William Warner Harris published a book that captured the distinguished history of the 65th while under his command. When asked if the Puerto Ricans would fight when the time came, then Colonel Warner Harris's answer was just as direct: "My Puerto Ricans will fight anyone, anywhere." So now the next part is where
And you
they're
know, it's
getting
funny,
down.
they actually participated in one of the last bayonet freaking charges in the war. Yeah.
Can I say something kind of fucked up? I
What's
mean,
that?
you're gonna tell a bunch of Puerto Ricans that they're not gonna have bayonets and edged weapons. It's like time to go to work, baby. I'm gonna stab some motherfuckers.
That's right.
I mean, listen. Come on. I'm sorry, Lord. I apologize.
Lord, I
Lord,
apologize.
I apologize. Be with them starving pygmies in New Guinea. Hey, man. So yeah.
I am
So
trying so hard to find this damn roster, like, because
that's
there
fine,
was
dude.
because I want to actually show him. It's my familia, my blood.
So this I'm gonna get down into some stuff we talked about a minute ago. So many non-Puerto Rican Hispanics served in the 65th Infantry during the war. Among those who distinguished themselves in combat and who served in the conflict as a member of the 65th Infantry was a young first lieutenant of Mexican-American descent whose name is Richard Edward Cavazos. Cavazos entered the military in Texas and served as a company commander of Company E of the 2nd Battalion. Cavazos, who in 1982 became the first Hispanic to become a 4-star general in the United States Army, was a recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star Medal, and the Bronze Star Medal. Cavazos is who they renamed Fort Hood after a few years ago. It went from being Fort Hood to Fort Cavazos. So that's who that heritage is after. So as we mentioned earlier, there was a mass court-martial, and I'm going to kind of start talking about that a little bit. So Colonel Cordero Davila was relieved of his command by Colonel Chester B. DeGaver, however that is, a West Point graduate and a Continental, an officer from the mainland United States, and the officer staff of the 65th was replaced with non-Hispanic officers. DeGaver, upset with the fact that G Company did not hold on to Hill 391, ordered that the unit stop calling itself the Borinqueneers, cut their special rations of rice and beans, ordered the men to shave their mustaches, and had one of them wear a sign that read, "I am a coward." The language barrier, an NCO shortage, and poor leadership were factors that influenced some of the men of Company L in their refusal to continue to fight. 162 Puerto Ricans of the 65th Infantry were arrested. Between 23 November and 26 December of 52, 95 soldiers were tried by general court-martial in 15 separate trials. 91 were found guilty and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 1 to 18 years of hard labor. It was the largest mass court-martial of the Korean War. According to cultural historian Sylvia Alvarez Corbello, the government of Puerto Rico, caught in the middle of a potentially damaging affair that could jeopardize its political agenda, kept silent for nearly 2 months. Finally, the incidents were made known by a local newspaper alerted by letters written by the imprisoned soldiers to their families. Secret negotiations between the U.S. and Puerto Rican governments took place, and the Secretary of the Army, Robert T. Stevens, moved quickly to remit the sentences and grant clemency and pardons to all those involved. The breakdown of the 65th resulted from a number of factors: a shortage of officers and non-commissioned officers, a rotation policy that removed combat experienced leaders and soldiers, tactical doctrine that led to high casualties, a shortage of artillery ammunition, communication problems between largely white English-speaking officers and Spanish-speaking Puerto Rican enlisted men, and declining morale. The report also found bias in the prosecution of the Puerto Ricans, citing instances of Continental soldiers who were not charged after refusing to fight in similar circumstances before and after Jackson Heights. Now, Jackson Heights was it was a battle area that was named after. It was in October of '52. The regiment saw action in the Chorwan sector and on Iron Horse. The lower part was called Jackson Heights in honor of Captain George Jackson, who was with an officer with the regiment. So,
Found my cuz.
okay. Though the men who were court-martialed were pardoned, a campaign for a formal exoneration was launched. So, anyway.
If you guys direct your eyes to the screen, that is Guillermo Alamo, and he was actually a machine gunner in the Borinqueneers, the 65th Infantry Regiment during the Korean War.
Nice.
So
good stuff.
Mi familia.
So he was what? He was a 30 cal machine gunner? Does it say? That's what they had back then, right?
I was gonna say back then, yeah, he would have been a 30 cal.
They had M1919 30 cal machine guns.
Okay. Yep.
Unless he's carrying a Ma Deuce around on his back. I'm like, I know you guys are tough, but like it's gonna break a man off after a while. No joke.
Yup. But yeah, man. So we Alamos have been in military service for quite a time.
You've been in some shit. You've seen some shit.
So continuing on to the Borinqueneers' storied history throughout Korea, we actually have a notable infantry soldier that actually came out of the 65th during Korea. I would say quite pleasantly coined the one-man army. This article comes to us from blackriflecoffee.com, and it is the story of...
Is it Black Rifle or is it their media page?
Excuse me. It is Black Rifle Coffee Company. I'm pretty sure it's part of their media page, or it's Coffee or Die, I think.
Coffee or Die. Coffee or Die. That's all their media stuff, man. It's all good.
Yeah. So the article says how the most decorated Hispanic soldier of the Korean War became a one-man army. Pictured here, right here, would be Sergeant First Class Modesto Cartagena de Jesus.
Can you roll that picture
Army first
up a little bit?
Yep.
So he's right the one in the right picture in with the yellow pendant. Yeah. Dude, I miss the greens, man. The greens were good.
Yup.
The greens were good.
He looks like a little guy. Most of us Puerto Ricans tend to be very little guys. We're not very tall, but we're fierce, damn it.
So, you kill me, dude.
So just to give you a gauge of how badass freaking Sergeant First Class Cartagena was, we're gonna go into his story. Army Sergeant First Class Modesto Cartagena de Jesus is considered the most decorated Hispanic soldier of the Korean War. He was awarded nearly every medal for valor except the Medal of Honor, which I think is a crock. I think they need to reevaluate that one. Excuse me. including the Distinguished Service Cross, which is the second highest honor any soldier can be awarded, the Silver Star, the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, and a Purple Heart.
I mean, if you go back up and look at that picture, he's got a nice little rack of chest candy right there. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you can zoom in on that, but like he's got a CIB there as well. So it's like, hey man, hey,
Right there.
yeah. Kind of reminds me of Sergeant Rivera a little bit. Short dude.
I know it does, right? I was
weathered in
thinking the same
face
thing.
That's
So,
hilarious.
Cartagena was born July 21st, 1921, and raised in the mountain village of Calle, Puerto Rico. He was among the first volunteers to enlist in the U.S. Armed Forces when the country entered World War II. In that war, as well as in the Korean War, he served in the famed 65th Infantry Regiment, the only all-Hispanic regiment in the U.S. Army. And while some Americans disparaged the regiment as a rum and Coca-Cola outfit, a racial attack on the unit's Latino members, the men within its ranks soon adopted another nickname, the Borinqueneers. Although they were racially segregated and demeaned, the soldiers also received great praise for their from their commanding officer in Korea, Brigadier General William Harris. He called the Borinqueneers the best damn soldiers in that war. Cartagena's actions at Hill 206 near Yeongcheong on April 19th, 1951, cemented his legendary status as the Borinqueneers' one-man army. A sergeant in a squad of the 3rd Platoon in Company C, Cartagena arrived at the rice paddies below Hill 206. The Chinese pinned down his unit with direct and intense crossfire. Never forget, folks, we've been at war with China for a long time. In order to maneuver on the enemy, Cartagena led his squad at a crawl toward the enemy's rear left flank. During their advance, one of Cartagena's soldiers, PFC Antonio Colon Flores, was killed in action. Another 11 men were wounded. The soldier who carried the automatic rifle called me out, Cartagena later recalled. He had been wounded by 2 rounds to his thigh. I dragged myself to him, applied morphine, and filled out an evacuation card. During the gunfight, Cartagena's rifle was broken in 2 pieces. He took the wounded soldier's automatic weapon, ammunition, and grenades, and he continued uphill. Look at that. Look at that. Bad son of a bitch. The Chinese would hurl their grenades at me, and I would catch them in the air and quickly throw them through the air, opening in the Chinese trenches, he said. They would take cover, and I would advance my position, and that's how I destroyed a Chinese position that was nearby. When he reached the top of the hill, Cartagena thought he still had 2 or 3 soldiers by his side, but he was alone. He encountered some 80 to 100 Chinese soldiers ensconced in their mortar nests. They wielded their 3 mortars, 3 machine guns, and 5 automatic weapons. Cartagena reached the first mortar nest and silenced it with a hand grenade. He first sprayed automated fire into the second mortar nest before destroying the position with an explosive charge. And that's how he destroyed 3 positions with machine guns, mortars, and 5 automatic weapons, Cartagena said. When the Chinese discovered my position, they threw so many grenades that 3 landed on me, 1 landed on my back, another between my legs, and a third on my right side.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
The last one wounded me.
A little too graphic there, Big Sarge. Holy shit.
The bone was sticking out from my arm. I lost lots of blood, but luckily I didn't faint. I kept fighting wounded for almost 3 hours. Eventually, the Chinese withdrew from the hill, taking their wounded with them. Alone, Cartagena took possession of the hill. He'd personally killed 33 by himself, mind you, Chinese soldiers who'd been hunkered down in machine gun and automatic weapons emplacements at the summit, as well as 15 more enemy soldiers scattered in positions situated along the hill's slope. After the battle, Cartagena assigned 2 squads to assist a stuck tank and 2 more squads to conduct searches for the dead and wounded. Then, and only then, did Cartagena return to a first aid station where he received life saving medical attention. Cartagena was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the nation's second highest achievement for bravery for the Medal of Honor. After the Medal of Honor, excuse me, he served a total of 20 years in the Army and died in 2010 at a ripe old age of 88. I believe that was because of stomach cancer, too. So it wasn't even the old age that got him. Look at that bad son bitch. Just smiling like, yeah, I took out like 3 emplacements. It was nothing. Just took out 3 emplacements.
Oh, that's good stuff, man.
The one damn man army. And the cool thing is, too, is if you look at we're gonna showcase his awards. If you look at his awards, you'll see that he actually has a star device on his CIB, which indicates that he served in 2 conflicts.
So he would have got one for World War II, and he would have got one for Korea.
World War II and Korea.
That's a big damn deal, man.
Yep.
You know, you see a guy with freaking a star on his CIB,
So again,
or a combat jump on his
bad son bitch.
So Distinguished Service Cross.
So this is a list of his awards.
Second CIB,
obviously.
Silver Star, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart. He's got Good Conduct. That's the American Defense Ribbon. I forget what the second one is. That might be the European Theater of Operations, Global World War II Victory Medal,
Korean Conflict
Ribbon. He's also got a star on his National Defense. He's got the Korean Medal with 6. Yeah, he's got 7 awards of the. So he was there through the whole war, because those are all awarded by phases and whatnot. So if he's got a Silver Star and a Bronze Star, so that's 5, 6, and the award itself is 7. Plus he's got the UN medal, and he's also got the UN defense, or the Korean defense from those people and whatnot. Damn, that dude's a hard charging motherfucker.
Yep. And look at that. Look at that. Look at that beautiful blue cord. Look at that beautiful blue cord.
Yeah, man. He's got the ruptured duck from World War II. He's got a retired lapel pin. Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
It's stiff.
So, Sergeant First Class Cartagena, if you're hearing us up in heaven, God rest your soul, Sergeant. You're a bad motherfucker.
Big Sarge. Big Sarge.
Big Sarge.
So,
yeah. Throughout the kind of, I would say, chaotic history of the Korean War for the unit, they had some ups and downs, obviously. There was one thing that added insult to injury to a lot of the men. Hold on.
Holding. My guy's not feeling good, people.
There was insult added to injury for a good bit of the men within that unit, aside from being labeled cowards and all that other stuff, which I think was apprehensible at its worst. And just they, like to rock mustaches back then, and it was a sign of manhood. It was a sign of I guess you could say, I guess Mac kind of coined it a little bit, like
machismo,
and it was a way of kind of distinguishing, how grown up you were for the men. Well, the Gavri ended up making them because of according to him, disobedience. I just think it was just poor leadership, honestly. according to a few of the things that I read. Um, it was just poor leadership, and DeGavry didn't help. He actually made them shave their mustaches, um, which ended up demoralizing the men even more, which is when they ran into the issues where a lot of them got arrested because they just, many of them just didn't want to serve under the man, you know? And if you look a little bit further, a lot of those guys ended up getting let off, you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah, they got pardoned and all that
yeah,
stuff.
they got
So
pardoned and all that stuff,
pardoned
which
and they were
they should
granted
have.
clemency. Yeah,
Yeah, they should have been.
yeah.
Um, DeGavry didn't understand the cultural differences, and it showed, um, which is why I feel like you needed um, a little bit more of a balance in terms of the leadership out there. Someone that could speak the language and speak to the guys, but also someone that could understand like there's a bit more to be said there when it comes to the culture.
And that's what I was gonna honestly say. It's like it's not. I don't think the language barrier was as much of a big deal as it was just the culture. I mean, these guys have all
Hmm.
trained together. I'm sure they were all very tight knit from all their training and all the combat experience that they've gone through. But also look, there's another good example of that. Look at oh God, what was that movie? Civil War movie with Matthew McConaughey, not Matthew Broderick. Glory. Look at that movie. You had white officers
Yep.
in charge of an all black regiment, the 54th Massachusetts Infantry. Um, so yeah, there was
Yeah.
quite a bit of like cultural differences and whatnot there, especially when that one general was like, "Oh yeah, go have them loot and plunder and all that bullshit." He's like, "No, like that's why would you do that?" And like, just it was just disgusting
Exactly.
and all that stuff. So that kind of unfortunately seems to be a recurring theme. But I wonder if that kind of stuff happened with the 442nd. That Japanese American. They had a name, and I forget what the
I,
hell the
it's
name
more
was.
than possible.
Yeah,
It's more than possible.
dude, we may have to talk about them as well. That's a big part of Korea was the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. That might be something we need to discuss
Hmm.
down the road.
Hell
Nisei,
yes.
yeah, fighting, yeah. Uh, 100th Infantry Battalion, best known as is decorated, most decorated in U.S. military history, and as a fighting unit composed almost entirely of second generation American soldiers of Japanese ancestry, Nisei, that fought in World War II. Yeah, that's what I could remember
So
earlier.
I'm finding the article. It's another freaking article from Coffee or Die, of course, where it actually talks about their bayonet charge against the Chinese.
Nice.
Um, so let's see. Where is it at? I'm looking through the article right now. It's another one that I found earlier, and I forgot to add it in.
No
But
worries.
I'm going to share it on the screen here in a minute once I get to that part of the article. Na, 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 na.
It just
The
goes to show you,
Gavri.
man. Like, there's so much history involved with Korea. Like, that's just
Yeah,
getting forgotten. I mean, it was what 4 years
and
from
it's
50 to 53.
they want to say that that Vietnam is the forgotten war. No, the real forgotten war is Korea.
It's Korea for sure.
There's so many people that did so many freaking great combat actions. And it's being forgotten because no one talks about it.
So while you're looking that up, dude, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick with one of the so during Korea. So we know earlier from reading that during World War II there were 2 silver stars, 22 bronze stars, and 90 purple hearts. So during Korea, they actually had one of their soldiers that was awarded the Medal of Honor, and that was Master Sergeant Juan E. Negron was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his courageous actions while serving as a member of Company L, 65th Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division during combat operation against an armed enemy in Kalma Eri, um, 30 Korea, 28 April of 51. His award was upgraded to the Medal of Honor on 18 March of 2014, so just a little over 10 and a half years ago. So the citation reads as follows: For service as set forth in the following citation, the Medal of Honor is posthumously presented to Juan E. Negron, Master Sergeant, United States Army, for extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against an armed enemy of the United Nations while serving with the 65th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. Master Sergeant Negron distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism in action against enemy aggressor forces in the vicinity of Kalma-Eri, Korea on 28 April of 1951. On that date, Sergeant Negron took up the most vulnerable position of his company's exposed right flank after an enemy force had overrun a section of the line. When notified that elements of the company were withdrawing, Sergeant Negron refused to leave his exposed position, but delivered withering fire at hostile troops who had broken through a roadblock. When the hostile troops approached his position, Sergeant Negron accurately hurled hand grenades at short range, halting their attack. Sergeant Negron held the position throughout the night while an Allied counterattack was organized and launched. After the enemy had been repulsed, 15 enemy dead were found only a few feet from Sergeant Negron's position. The extraordinary heroism exhibited by Sergeant Negron on this occasion reflects great credit upon himself and is in keeping with the finest traditions of military service.
Hell yes.
So if you haven't,
So
okay, so let me sidebar real quick. If you haven't done
no,
so,
go ahead.
if you haven't done so, and if you're watching this or listening to this at home, if you haven't done so, especially since we just had Veterans Day on the 11th of this Monday of this week, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, go back and go online, and you can find any one of these. Like, go watch an awards ceremony, a presentation of the Medal of Honor. Like, Staff Sergeant Salvatore Giunta was the first living recipient of the global war on terrorism. It's pretty much the first guy since like Korea. Because everybody, because you had the last two that were presented were to Shugart and Gordon for Mogadishu, but those were both posthumously, obviously, because they both were died in action and stuff, killed in action. But yeah, like Salvatore Giunta, any one of those where the guys are alive and not just presenting it to the family, those are a little bit harder to watch. Obviously, they're presenting it to a family member or whatnot. But Greg Kinnear's character that he played in We Were Soldiers, what was his name? Bruce Crandall.
Yep.
He's a retired colonel. He actually had an award.
He was awarded the Medal of Honor.
And so was the other guy, Too Tall. That guy was as well. I forget what.
Too tall, sir. You call, we haul.
Yeah, that guy. But both of their citations were upgraded to the Medal of Honor for their participation in the Battle of Yadring Valley. But even like the most recent one, I think, was Sergeant Major Payne, who was awarded the Medal of Honor for Operation Inherent Resolve, which is all the stuff that's taking place against like ISIS and whatnot.
Yep.
I mean, he goes out there and you can just tell that guy is a freaking stud. He is a freaking absolute warrior, but he's also wearing the new pinks and greens, and it's just like, brown jump boots, that whole thing going on there. Badass. But yeah, if you haven't had the opportunity to do that or haven't just taken the time to sit and watch a citation to a living recipient of the Medal of Honor, that's man, if that don't hit you right in the feels and being patriotic and wanting to appreciate the war fighters that do harm on your countrymen's behalf, like, you should go do that. So
one thing you'll notice amongst all those guys is that they always say they're not the hero of that story. It belongs to everybody.
They're wearing that to honor the other guys that have fallen or the other people that didn't make it or whatever else. Like, they're the steward of whatever the case may, whatever of the story. Pretty much, like, it's my response to make sure the story is never forgotten. All that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean,
so I found the snippet on that bayonet charge. By the way,
go for it. Share it.
So the Borinqueneers, right, in January of 1951, Other battalions from the 65th were tasked with or to take three hills occupied by the Chinese 149th Division. On the morning of the third day, the Borinqueneers fixed bayonets and charged through the freezing hilltops as the communist Chinese soldiers fled.
So that's the thing. They weren't doing it to be heroes. They were just running to stay warm because they're freezing their asses off. That's
Probably.
what's going on. Yeah. Let's
The Puerto Ricans
you got the
forming
lore of it, and then you got the let's look at it from a practical standpoint. If we run in these hills, we'll stay warm.
Yep.
Okay, man, let's do that. Fucking put
The
the knife
Puerto
on the gun and
Ricans
let's fucking run.
forming the ranks of the gallant 65th Infantry give daily proof on the battlefields of Korea of their courage, determination, and resolute will to victory. Their invincible loyalty to the United States and their fervent devotion to those immutable principles of human relations with which the Americans of the continent and Puerto Rico have in common. General Douglas MacArthur wrote in 1951. They are writing a brilliant record of heroism in battle, and I am indeed proud to have them under my command. I wish that we could count on many more like them. So,
go down and read that next portion there. That snippet under that. A year of combat experience. Yeah.
For the 65th in Korea resulted in 15,787 enemies killed in action, 2,169 prisoners of war taken, and 4 Distinguished Service Cross medals, and 125 Silver Stars.
Damn.
So good old General Dougie Max decided, that the Puerto Ricans are pretty good to keep around. You know what I'm saying?
Why is it? Oh, I feel like you went from sitting like this to be like doing the Kevin Hart thing. Say with your chest. Say with your chest.
That's right. Freaking
no, but honest, like,
General Dougie Mac decided that the Puerto Ricans was the best ones on the battlefield.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I had to.
Let's not get too carried away there. I'm not taking away from anything he's saying. But yeah, like there's a bunch of pictures where you see those guys rocking mustaches and stuff. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, man. So I mean, all in all, man, these guys are bad some bitches, right? Doing their thing throughout the years in the military, Now moving on to more present day, conflicts like the global war on terror and specifically OIF. It says the 65th Infantry Regiment, also known as the Borinqueneers, played a significant role in Operation Iraqi Freedom. As part of the 3rd Infantry Division, the regiment was deployed to Iraq in 2003 and 2007. So basically, they were there when I was there at one point, which my unit deployed in 2007. During its initial deployment in 2003, the 65th Infantry Regiment was part of the division's spearhead forces, meaning breaking through, fighting its way to Baghdad in early April 2003, contributing to the end of Saddam Hussein's government. In 2007, as part of the surge, which is when I came in, the entire 3rd Infantry Division, including the 65th Infantry Regiment, returned to Iraq. The regiment participated in various operations, including supporting national parliamentary elections in 2010, March of 2010, and the transition from Operation Iraqi Freedom to Operation New Dawn in September of 2010. So in 2003, here's some cool tidbits. In 2003, the regiment was part of the division's initial deployment to Iraq, fighting its way to Baghdad, right? So basically, they helped break through a lot of those lines, like kind of taking out a lot of, at the time, Saddam's forces, really. So when, the initial push through to get to Saddam, the 65th was part of that, which is actually pretty freaking dope if you ask me. And in 2007, they were pretty much part of the same deal. Like when I was there, they participated in a couple of different operations. It didn't really give too many specifics on what they did while they were there, but it basically says that they participated in quite a few actions during the 2007 year. And in 2010, they let's see. It says the regiment was involved in the transition from Operation Iraqi Freedom to Operation New Dawn, supporting the establishment of combined security mechanism, a tripartite. I don't know what that means. Security agreement between the Iraqi security forces and Kurdish Peshmerga. So the Iraqi security forces, for a lot of people that don't know, for our civilian listeners, we actually worked with them quite a bit when I was over there. It was really down to really, you could say like Iraqi police and things like that. There was a lot of corruption in that shit, though.
God, you're not joking. Even in
There was a lot
Afghanistan,
of
dude,
corruption.
the corruption was fucking everywhere, dude.
Oh yeah, no, it was pretty bad. So they, trying to weed out the asshats was kind of one of those things that we worked on. We worked on daily.
Weed out the asshats.
And the Borinqueneers were right there with us doing the same thing, but in a different area of operation, different AO. So I mean, they have a really storied history, man, and it's a shame that a lot of units don't get really a lot of recognition. But the Borinqueneers earned their full recognition in, I believe it was the spring of 2013. Let's see.
20. Are you talking about the gold medal?
Nope. God, I wish I'd have wrote this down in the notes because I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. On
2013, a bill to
on
confer
April
the
the 13th.
Oh,
April the
yeah.
13th is now officially National Borinqueneers Day. And that's the one thing I can say thank you, Obama.
So I was actually reading, they've actually got quite a bit of accolades, besides all that stuff. So,
oh, yeah.
On 20 May of 2001, the governor of Puerto Rico unveiled a monument honoring the 65th Infantry Regiment. The monument was made by artist Sonny Rodriguez and is called Mission Accomplished. It contains a statue of a soldier wearing a poncho with his rifle in one hand and the regiment's flag in the other. There was a documentary that PBS put out called The Borinqueneers in 2007. Yep. 30 November of 2012, an entire stretch of Southern Boulevard in the South Bronx, New York, was codenamed La 65 de Infanteria Boulevard.
Infanteria,
whatever. I know you're just going to mess that up. In 2014, the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, which was attended by nearly 2 million people and broadcast live on Fox TV, was dedicated to the Borinqueneers. The city of Springfield, Massachusetts, unveiled 65 Infantry Way. In 2020, January 2020, an entry gate of Fort Buchanan in Puerto Rico was officially renamed the Borinqueneers Gate in honor of the regiment. In early 2021, a law signed to make April 13 National Day of Borinqueneers, so the veterans can commemorate the service of them. So, and there's also a monument to the Borinqueneers in Korea and stuff. So,
yeah, the Borinqueneers, they were an awesome regiment. They still are an awesome regiment. Keep kicking ass, boys.
According to this, though, they said that they now fall under. Since 2018, first of the 65th Infantry has been assigned to the California Army National Guard's 79th Infantry Combat Brigade.
Really? They were assigned to California?
Yes, that's what it says.
Ah, interesting. That part I did not find. I was focusing on mainly like the historical stuff.
I got you.
That's actually pretty. Eh, I wish they would have been assigned to Florida. I feel like Florida would have been a better spot.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
It would have. Yeah. You're slacking there, Uncle Ronnie D. Slacking. You should have
Well,
gotten
that
that
was
first. You let Governor Newsom get it. But the reason we wanted to really cover this was um, there are a lot of there's a lot of there's a lot of not just infantry units, but military units that unfortunately for whatever reason they kind of get they kind of fall to the wayside a little bit.
so. Let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're assigned to the California Infantry Brigade, the 79th, although the regiment is still located in Puerto Rico. Because I'm looking at
Interesante.
yeah. So it says here that it used to be called the 40th Infantry Brigade.
Yeah.
They have since changed it and redesignated it in late 2008 as the 79th Brigade without changing its composition. So the
Yeah.
order of battle is 1st Squadron, 18th Cavalry Regiment in Azusa, California; 1st Battalion, 65th Infantry Regiment in Calle, Puerto Rico; 1st Battalion, 160th Infantry Regiment in Fullerton, California; 1st Battalion, 184th Infantry Regiment in Modesto, California; 1st Battalion, 143rd Field Artillery Regiment in Richmond. And then there's two other ones in Manhattan Beach and Bell, California, a brigade engineer battalion and a brigade support battalion. So, yes, they are still in Puerto Rico. They just fall under the California Guard.
Under California.
Which I mean, all
That's
makes
kind
sense.
of Uncle Ronnie D should have jumped on that one, but
He wasn't in
that's just me.
office in 2008, dude.
Oh, in 2008. Oh, well,
Yeah,
then shoot.
that's when it changed.
Christie, was it Christie at the time?
Not
Or
for us.
Christ? Or Christ? Christ. Was it Christ?
Let me look up.
I'm curious. Either way, somebody should have jumped on it. But the reason we brought this up was because
Christ. Charlie Christ.
Charlie Christ. I knew it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so many great units out there that don't really get as much, I would say, airtime or I should say they don't get as many accolades as some of the other units, like some of the like really big units, things like 101st Airborne, 82nd Rangers, all that shit. You know what I mean? But there's such a big smorgasbord of military units that had such an impact on the grand scheme of how our military was run and how and why our military and have contributed to why our military is the best damn fighting force on the planet. And the 65th is just one of those units. You don't hear about it as much because as I would say, again, it's probably a big cultural thing. Like as things go, Puerto Ricans are very prideful people. We are very protective of our history, very protective of how things are said and how things are done with our history. But I'm not the kind of person that believes that just keeping it to ourselves is something that is paramount. I believe those things need to be shared and they need to be shared with the world so that people know just how hard these guys busted their ass, just how hard these guys worked, and even though I didn't serve in the unit, I had family that served in the unit, obviously. It fills me with a certain level of pride to know that I've continued a tradition that, many family members that, have been in my family have, done, and now I've continued, even if it's not in the same unit.
Yeah.
So, well, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, lineage, man, that's a big deal. That really is. Carrying on the lineage of the family and whatnot. Like, for me, I was the first one in the military since my grandfather at the end of World War II. He was in the Army Air Force and then ended up being in the Indiana Army National Guard, where he was the first sergeant of, I believe, a tank company. I got a great picture of him sitting there with his like headquarters guys, and he's got his first sergeant chevrons on. I'm just like, yeah, that's Grandpa, absolutely. So, but yeah, lineage is such a big deal, and like I kind of feel like as a country sometimes, or as communities or whatnot, we kind of lose that. Um, just carrying on like all those little things. Like when you go around, like I love my grandfather, and my dad used to love driving around Zephyr Hills, and it's like kind of remembering what used to be in that spot and what was there and what was there. And it's like if we don't remember those little things like that, like they kind of just fall to the wayside in
Sure do.
the sands of time, and that's important. But um, yeah, so that's our conversation for our Veterans Day episode for this year. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Alamo, freaking kick ass for doing all that research and stuff, man. Good stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed reading all that stuff and learned a lot. I had no idea about some of that stuff. I was completely oblivious. So like I learned some cool stuff. So
Yeah. The Chinese were scared out of their minds of those guys. They especially after that bayonet charge in Korea, the Chinese were genuinely they were scared to death of that military unit that was on that one hill. They didn't know that was all a bunch of Hispanic dudes. You know what I'm saying?
I get it, man. I totally get it. So but anyway, that's our episode. Hope you guys liked it. We're gonna close this out like we always do. So and we're gonna go from there. So um if you've seen us, if you've seen or watching these episodes in the past, again, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you guys giving it a look or a listen. You know that we started this kind of after we lost a good friend of ours. We had a buddy named John that used to work with us when we worked in the private sector in a retail establishment. John was just one of those dudes. He was funny as shit, loved to joke around, loved to work hard. And unfortunately, he chose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. So, in the process of figuring out like what this was going to be, we decided we wanted to work together and do something. We weren't sure what that was. We decided on a podcast, found out about John, and that was for me like my catalyst moment. I was like, listen, I'm in, dude. Like, let's do this. We kind of thought about what that would look like and whatnot. So, in the process of coming up with a name and what we were going to stand for and what our vision and our mission was, we came up with the Battle Bros Code. And what the Battle Bros Code um, is a 4-part like mantra to kind of keep yourself with your head squared on, head screwed on tight. Keep yourself in in the presence of every day and keep yourself here and around and all that good stuff. So if you can remember these 4 easy parts, components, lines of the Battle Bros Code, you should be doing better than not. Okay. So the first one is B. All you got to remember is BROS. B. Be tenacious. Just like the dudes of the 65th Infantry Regiment during a bayonet charge up a hill, frozen against Chinese, overwhelming odds. Be tenacious. All right. No matter what you do in life, do it to the fullest and utmost of your abilities. Okay. In the words of the immortal Ron Swanson, don't half-ass 2 things. Whole ass 1 thing. 1 whole ass, people. That's all I gotta say about that. R. Refuse surrender. Like those guys did. They had a lot of obstacles thrown against them. They had some not so great leadership. They had a lack of cold weather clothing, lack of ammunition, rations, all that kind of stuff. They said, "Yeah, no, we're not going to quit. We're not going to be, we're not going to let people label us as quitters or, wimps or cowards or whatnot." I mean, look what General MacArthur wrote about him. It was like these guys are freaking ballsy and they're all up committed for taking the fight to the enemy, all that good stuff. So no matter what happens,
Right.
refuse to surrender. Obliterate your obstacles. they had at certain times the deck stacked against them. Okay, they had a cultural challenge with officers that were continental officers that came in from the mainland that weren't familiar with the culture, language difficulties. Okay, no matter what those obstacles look like, sometimes you got to go and just take care of business. Sometimes you got to go and trek through the woods to get back on the main MSR to get to the objective. Sometimes you have to scale a wall. Sometimes you have to blow a hole in the wall. Sometimes you got to knock a wall down by driving a vehicle into it, my dude. Yeah, that guy. No matter what that is, obliterate those obstacles. Get up, keep moving, and accomplish. Hit the OBJ, get on the X, get off the X, and move on to your next target. Okay, obliterate your obstacles. S. Most importantly, seek out help in a time of need. As we mentioned with our good friend John, he solved a temporary problem with a permanent solution, and that is unfortunate because John was a guy worth knowing, worth hearing, just worth listening to tell his amazing, funny stories. You would just sit there and smirk and laugh and just be like, we did so much dumb shit at work. We seriously did. I'm surprised we didn't get in more trouble. Like,
Yeah.
we had so much fun, but it was just like dumb, stupid shit. But it was great. All right. And there isn't anything we can do to bring John back. And I think it just recently would have been his birthday. I think if I saw on Facebook correctly,
I think so too. Yeah.
It's like one of the last couple of weeks that we weren't on the air on a Friday. So,
No.
If you're going through something, please reach out to somebody, whatever that looks like. It could be, a family member, a friend, a trusted confidant, a coworker. If you're comfortable and feel safe enough with this person talking about what's bothering you, reach out. Okay. In the event that that's not a feasible option for you, just remember that there are resources out there. If you feel like you're going down a dark path where you are contemplating ending it all or taking yourself out of the equation, stop, perform an admin halt, take a knee, and wait for some help. That could be in the form of the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can reach them one of two different ways. You can call 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255, or you can just dial TALK, TALK, at the very end. You can also dial from a mobile phone 988. That's 988. You can actually text them as well. They are open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And if you are going to need to talk to somebody immediately, I believe you just get on there and hit option 1 on the phone and then go from there. The biggest thing that we're going through right now as a community of veterans is this number right here. On average, 22 people a day, 22 veterans a day choose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. And that is just not okay. Okay.
According to some statistics there, I think they're saying that it's probably more like 25 now.
Really?
Yeah. That's something I saw recently.
All right. So we got to work a little harder. Okay. But that's what we're trying to help curb the tide on. Okay. My daughter asked me a long time ago, she's like, Daddy, how many followers do you have? With your podcast? And I was like, that's really not a metric that we're concerned about. I mean, in a way, yes, we very much are. Anybody that wants to view our content, listen to it, view it, pass it along to somebody, you're part of the solution. And we greatly appreciate and thank you for your help in this journey of ours. But I told her, I said, the number of followers, that's cool and everything. I said, what's most important is if somebody comes up to me and hypothetically they're like, hey, I wanted to come to your event. I wasn't in a good place a while back. I listened to your show and it was funny at times. It made me think. It made me laugh. You guys just act like a bunch of ding dong asshats on there. And I laughed and I stopped thinking about trying to kill myself. And if they say thank you, or say, you know what, I didn't because you guys had a pretty good message, or whatever the hell that looks like. That to me is the most important thing. If we can stop somebody ending up and going out like John did, unfortunately, that's to me is the most amazing thing that we could ever take part of, and I would be forever humbled and honored to be part of a solution. I'm a lot of things. We're a lot of things, but if we could take part in that, that would be fantastic. So if you can
Absolutely.
remember those four things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. That one's the most important one. They're all important, but that one's probably got a little bit more on its plate for importance. If you can remember those four parts of the Battle Bros code, then you're going to have a pretty good chance of staying in the fight and keeping yourself here, and that's what we want for you. So,
Damn right.
do yourself a favor, give yourself a fighting chance, and stay in the fight. Okay. That's the end of my piece. I'm going to hand it off to Alamo. He's going to finish the sign off, and then we are going to sign off ourselves for the week, and we'll get the hell out of here. So, take it away.
So, if you want to catch us on the social medias, there's a couple of places you could do that on. One of them being the Facebook. You can find us over there at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also find us on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast. You can find us on X. At BattleBrosPC. Crap, I'm springing a leak.
On X at Battle Bros PC, formerly known as Twitter, it is now known as
X. I'm just gonna fucking roll with it. We also
this right here, folks. This is a good example of refusing to surrender and obliterating your obstacles. Saying "fuck it,
Damn
I'm driving
right.
on." Keep going with it.
On the instant messaging service on each one of those platforms, you can contact us. If you feel like you want to contact us a little bit more privately, you can do that at battlebrospc@gmail.com. That is battlebrospc@gmail.com. Whether it's for yourself, family member, or friend, please don't hesitate us. Write us. Let us know, hey, I know somebody that's going through something. I know myself going through something, blah, blah, blah. Or hell, even if you got show suggestions, if there's a certain subject you want to talk about and you want to hear about, hey, we're all ears. Send it to the Battle Bros. Email. If, like many of us, you have a subscription to an audio platform, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon Music, among others. And you can just go into the taskbar, search Battle Bros Podcast. Battle Bros, that's all caps, Battle Bros Podcast, and you can find us on those platforms. Other than that, I have got nothing. My Count Crudula is starting to get to me even worse. Haha.
All right, so go ahead and take that freaking Theraflu or whatever the hell you're going to take since we're wrapping up. I'll finish this off here.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Again, folks, we thank you for stopping by and taking part in our conversation. This one was a fun one. We all like to do a little bit different, change of pace with the historical type stuff. Talking about Operation Overlord, talking about the Borinqueneers and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of adds to the versatility of our podcast and things we can talk about. We like to talk about serious stuff, but every once in a while we want to talk about some not so heavy serious stuff. That's, fun that we can enjoy, get behind, all that kind of junk. Thank you so much for continuing to be a part of this process and this journey with us. We could not do this without the viewers and the folks on the other side of the screen here. Without you, we don't have a way to keep this going forward. So thank you so much for doing your part. Just remember, sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it's about paying it forward and passing it along. You may watch a show and tell somebody about it. They tell somebody about it, and it gets to somebody that needs to actually sit down and hear and listen about it. And that's very, very much important. And that's something that we cannot do ourselves. We need to rely on everybody out there watching, listening, and taking part in this with us. So this has been episode 093 entitled The Borinqueneers of the Battle Bros podcast. Thank you so much. On behalf of myself, Mac, this is Alamo. we want to say, just remember, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. And if you can do those things, you have a good shot of setting yourself up for success. So until the next time, we will hopefully see you next week. Until then, be safe. Hope you had a happy Veterans Day. If you get an opportunity, go thank a veteran. Spend some time with them, let them tell you their story, and yeah, all that good stuff. So thank you so much,
Go do it.
and we'll see you down the road.
Battle Bros out.